How easy is saying no to you? And what about when you finally set that healthy boundary with someone or something in your life? Do you catch yourself feeling guilty afterwards? Hello guys, my name is Diego and today we're diving into why is it so hard for us gay men to set boundaries? Why does it feel so uncomfortable for us to say no, to protect our peace, to protect our energy, to set healthy boundaries and limits with other people, and why is that so hard for us? I'm also going to share a harsh but honest truth depending on how you look at it, so you can drop your people pleasing for good and start prioritizing your needs first. And I believe self-awareness is super important in any type of personal development work, and so I want to start with some of the whys. It all starts from childhood, in my opinion. And as human beings, we are wired for connection and for survival. And we want to feel part of communities. We want to feel seen, we want to feel acknowledged by who we are, and we want to connect with others. And I think for me, that's kind of the first stab in the back that we had, because we grew up seeking acceptance, belonging, and being part of the society and communities in a society that, for the most part, rejected who we are. And so we internalize this belief that something's wrong with me, that perhaps I am not worthy as other people of a prosperous life. And so likely as you went on about your life, you suffered some sort of bullying at school and like prejudice. Hopefully your family accepted yourself for who you are, but maybe not. And so unfortunately that went on to create additional traumas about your identity, about who you are in essence. And maybe you had relationship problems and then you internalized that the relationship didn't work out because it was your fault, because there was something wrong with you. And so we kind of learn to mold ourselves, to protect ourselves from suffering and to avoid rejection. And in my own life, I now see so many of my behaviors were rooted in like fear, fear of rejection, fear of not being liked, and fear, people are gonna judge me. And so I was worried too much what other people were gonna think about me, about the way I talk, the way I present myself, and the way I behave. And because deep down we don't want to feel rejected, and we want to feel part of, we want to feel seen and accepted, not the other way around. But the problem is, it created in us this kind of people pleasing behaviors. And so we don't want to feel rejected, and so we try to please others because we want to feel like, we want to be liked, we want them, the others, we want others to like us, we want others to appreciate us. And so we created this type of different personas, these different types of personalities as such for different people, and we were forgetting about our own needs in the process. And perhaps by now you don't even know what your real needs are, and you're just going through the motions and living your lives on autopilot, and you just sense that there's something off in your life, but you can't really tell why and where that's coming from. And the problem with these people pleasing behaviors is that we start to play down our needs, and sometimes maybe you don't even know what your needs are, as I mentioned, but we prioritize acceptance versus authenticity, and versus what our real needs are and what do I need at a given moment. And likely you internalized this belief, it's unconscious, and perhaps you don't even realize it, that saying no is rude, that perhaps asking for what you need, you are being too much, that you don't want to be a burden to other people, or that you are giving them too much effort, for your demands or for what you need. But this is just these unconscious beliefs based on this trauma that you suffered, that you're now a people pleasing person. And because of that, you avoid conflicts at all costs, like I used to in my life. And I still do. And it is a process for me. Sometimes I push myself to being uncomfortable sometimes. And it's not easy, I can tell you that. But we internalize in our behaviors that conflict is going to equal to rejection, that equals suffering. And so we don't want to suffer, and so we protect ourselves. This is all like protection mechanisms that we internalize and we create for ourselves because we avoid the suffering in the end. But there's one truth that I want you to listen and pay attention to now, which is not everyone will like you, and that's okay. In the same way, you probably don't like everybody, and you don't like everyone that you interact with. And so it's not our jobs to be liked by everyone. And if you feel that perhaps you are a person that everyone likes and that everyone enjoys and no one complains about you about anything, maybe you are not being authentic. And maybe you are, like I mentioned at the beginning, adapting your behavior just to please everyone, um, because you deep down you fear conflict and you fear being rejected, and you're not being who you really are, and you are pleasing everyone in the process. And once I finally learned this simple truth, it started like changing my entire life and how I see things, because I avoid conflicts at all costs. And even in small things on day to day, asking for what you need, it was difficult for me. But it's important to realize that our behavior are rooted in trauma that we experienced in the past. And so we can now make new choices, and we can, perhaps for the first time, understand what your needs are, what your real needs are, and what do you need at a given moment. And if you need more time for yourself, you have to say no to other things in your life. If you are in a toxic relationship, you're in a toxic job, you need to set boundaries and you need to take action to change something in your life. But even, small things that happened in my life as well in the past, sometimes I went to buy grocery and I don't know, the prices didn't match and I had already paid, but I was too shy, to go to the customer service and to complain about the things that I had overpaid, for example. Or if I purchased something online and I had to call customer service to complain about something, and I used to always like postpone those things or try to do it in a least disruptive manner as possible. But if I purchased something like a service or product that it's not performing as expected, it's not, like fulfilling the expectation that I had, it is my role to demand and to complain or to return and ask for my money back, for example. And so this topic of setting boundaries is in everyday life, and it's small and bigger things in our life and more important things in our lives. But that's because we learn, as I mentioned at the beginning, to downplay our needs. And sometimes like, oh, that's nothing. I'll just leave it and that's fine. But it's even in those like small things that we get to practice, and we get to practice putting our needs first, and we get to practice, I actually think I deserve better, and I don't like this product that I'm going to return it because it's not working as I expected, or the service that you purchased. And so I am at a stage in my life that I'm having to practice all of those things. And it is uncomfortable, and sometimes for me, it is happening at a very fast pace. Um, there's always something to fix and something to complain, and I get very exhausted sometimes. But I know that in my path now, it is experiences that it's showing me how to practice those things, and how to, like, to be firm and to set limits and boundaries with other people. We had someone in the house recently doing some renovations, and we were kind of like paying as the job got done, but he started missing a few days a week, and he was arriving very late, and the work got delayed. We thought it was going to be finished by a month at the latest, and a month later he hasn't even completed like half of the work, and all of our furniture, all of the things in the house were like covered, and it was just like a big mess to live in. And I talked to this person twice in maybe like, in a period of 2 weeks. I had to organize my weeks. I work from home, and it's very hard for us to, to live in a house like this. And he didn't listen. He continued to arrive very late, to leave very early in the afternoon, to skip a few days. One day he went to the doctor, one day he went to the hospital, and like giving all these excuses. And we were paying for it, right? It wasn't like for free, a free job that he was doing. And so I'm back living with my mom for a while temporarily. And so we had a conversation, and I talked to her. It was like, you know what, I think we have to dismiss this person because it is a very expensive job and he's not listening to us and we're paying for it. And so I think we just have to dismiss it and leave it on for a while as things are. And then we find someone else when the time is right, and that's fine. And that's what we did. He paid, half of the service that he had provided. Um, and I did myself some of the finishes in the house. I painted a couple of walls. I did some touches here and there, just to keep the house organized and turn on the inside. But I knew and it was very painful, like this person walking around the house every day and not doing the work and disrupting our entire, like, routines. And but I needed to be the one to set the boundary, because otherwise he would just continue doing whatever he was doing, like he showed up to do before. I was very happy in the end, despite the house has not been finished and it's still not finished to this day. We need to find someone else to finish the work. But I was so relieved in the end. I don't know. It's like I dealt with something that was being painful for me and that was disrupting my entire life. And otherwise, that person would still be in the house and I was still gonna be paying for a service that I wasn't happy about just because I kind of need it. But I can tell you that um, it is your role to set boundaries. It is your role to tell when something is wrong, to tell when something is not as adequate as you expected. And so see those opportunities in life as a way to practice because I believe that that's what they are. They are, experiences for us to practice the areas in our life, in our personal development that we need to develop. And I want you to remember that you're not here to be liked by everyone. You're not here to like everyone else. And as I mentioned before, saying no, it's not rude. And it's definitely not rude to protect your energy and to set limits. And in fact, if you don't set healthy boundaries, you are actually hurting yourself. And so next time you struggle with setting a boundary, I want you to ask yourself, who is really in control of your life? You or other people's expectations?